Hi, I'm Ruthie, owner of Defy the Status Quo, and you're listening to the Defiant Business Podcast, your daily 10-minute shot of business knowledge. You don't have a lot of time, and I'm not going to waste it, so we're going to jump right into it. Today, we are talking about white papers. I'm going to give you the quick and dirty on white papers because I get a lot of blank looks, maybe like the one you're wearing right now, when I tell people that part of Defy the Status Quo's content marketing services include writing white papers. So, what is a white paper? A white paper is a fact-based but persuasive piece of marketing content that's long form. It might be 5 to 10 pages and it's very research heavy, or at least it should be. So sometimes you may be on a website and you download something that says it's a white paper, but maybe it's only 3 to 4 pages. I would say that probably qualifies as another type of marketing document, probably not a full blown white paper. Doesn't mean to say that it doesn't have some of the characteristics, but it seems that in recent years, the term white paper is kind of tossed around a bit loosely. So, who are white papers for? Like, who typically commissions white papers? They are often commissioned from companies that are B2B. But if you are a B2C company and you've got expensive or new or complicated products, then white papers may still be for you too. Um, yeah, so any company that's selling something new, something complicated, and something that's also expensive that needs explaining. An example that's pretty easy to give you, if a B2B company, if their product were warehouse robots, and so their angle would be that warehouse robots are more efficient, more effective, and over time they cost less, let's say. Those are all great selling points, but they may be selling points that they need to clarify or justify to their potential sellers. Um, because initially up front purchasing, well, you're not just going to purchase one warehouse robot, you're going to be purchasing probably a whole fleet of them. That's a decision that's going to require some explaining, some justification. But you like the idea already. Maybe you read a blog post. Maybe you read a blog post about warehouse robots and the automation they bring to the warehouse, and you're interested. For a B2C scenario, because I had to throw one of these in here, let's say you sell new CBD skincare products. So, CBD, I think, is still kind of the um, wild, wild west, if you will, of products. And from my standpoint, it seems like a lot of people are adding it to products. I'm not completely sold on the effectiveness of it just yet. Um, Not to say it's ineffective, but there's a lot of anecdotal evidence going around. I would definitely like to see more empirical evidence as to the health benefits of CBD, but that's not the purpose of this podcast today. So let's say you sell new CBD skincare products and you want to not just sell direct to consumer, like we're accustomed to seeing through Amazon or through websites and other typical e-commerce setups. Let's say you want to go mainstream and you want to work with wholesalers and retailers to get your product out on the market. So direct to consumer is a B2C setup. When you're working with wholesalers and retailers, that is a B2B relationship because your business and their business, right? And so they're not just going to buy one bit of your product. Now the purchase they're going to make from you is much larger. And so this is why people who sell individual small products tend to like to have relationships with wholesalers and retailers because they can move product in bulk. So the purchase cycles for B2B are longer because the purchase orders are bigger, but you can make more. You can spend less on packaging when you're moving, and shipping. You can spend less on shipping when you're moving a bulk order from your warehouse or your manufacturing facility to the wholesaler's warehouse or the retailer's, warehouse. So you might want a white paper that goes into the benefits of CBD oil in skincare. or CBD, anything in skincare. You would have a lot of statistics. You would cite relevant modern research. It's not to say that anecdotal quotes and things wouldn't have a place, but you wouldn't necessarily have a customer's quotes in there. You would want another doctor or dermatologist. So like specifically a dermatologist because you sell skincare, you'd want a person like that quoting in your white paper. So let's say you're sold on white papers and you want to use them in your business. So what to expect for you as the business owner from a white paper? Well, first of all, depending on the size and depending on the writer, depending on the topic, your white paper may run anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000. I just want to say that just for all the writers out there who may or may not be listening to this because the topic is white papers, I am telling anybody who's listening that you should expect to pay that much. It's a research heavy document. If you're paying less, you run the risk of getting someone who doesn't know what they're doing or doesn't understand the actual intent behind a white paper. If you are in that range somewhere, you should get a high quality document that was very research heavy and includes editing and things like that. As a writer, I typically provide recommendations for the images, the charts, and things like that should go inside the white paper. And of course, I'm, editing and there for rounds and back and forth. There's actually a whole process that's recommended for white papers. So it's not just like a quick project. You should expect it to take 4 to 6 weeks. And that's just because there are a lot of shareholders involved in a white paper project. So it's not just the writer taking 4 to 6 weeks to write it, although they easily could and be comfortable. It's also, okay, the writer writes the outline or the executive summary and sends it off for feedback. Now they're waiting. Are they writing while they're waiting? No, they're waiting because they're waiting for feedback. Then they write the first draft and they send it out for feedback. Well, multiple people have to give their feedback and that takes time. Okay, now that's done. Okay, we've incorporated the feedback, send out the second draft. Now we get more, so you can see how it kind of, once you get more feedback, you kind of go back and forth on those things. White paper should include interviews at a minimum. They should include quotes, but interviews are best, which you'll pull quotes from, but people speak in a more conversational manner. They can be, a bit more catchy, a bit more clever when they're speaking. Whereas for some people, when they're typing, when they're writing out quotes, it becomes very rote and robotic and generic. So voice interviews are normally the best. Your white paper should include charts and small, mini infographics to kind of visualize the data that you're presenting to really drive points home. And then just remember when you're considering, oh my goodness, white papers, a white paper could be good for 1 to 2 years before it needs updating. So it really is an investment. As long as you promote it properly, it will be fine. You can repurpose it into a lot of different things. Repurposing content is important. And that means you take a piece of content and transform it. It keeps its essence, but you transform it and move in and use it on a different platform. So maybe you're, posting little clips of it from social media or on social media. Maybe you repurpose the white paper into a slide deck. You share it on SlideShare. Maybe you talk about your white paper in a podcast episode. So there's a lot of different ways that you can take your content and repurpose it into something different. So people make emotional decisions, right? But with long purchase cycles, with expensive purchases, you typically have to justify those purchases to someone besides yourself. And so white papers can provide that fact-based justification. It can be very persuasive. It should be persuasive. And 56% of marketers say they're the most effective piece of content at moving prospects from mid-funnel to the bottom of the funnel. We'll talk about the funnel on another podcast episode, but for now, that's all I've got for you. So consider white papers as part of your content marketing strategy. They're often called the king of content. So this is Ruthie from Defy the Status Quo, and you've been listening to the Defiant Business Podcast, your daily 10-minute shot of business knowledge. I will talk to you tomorrow.